Hey everybody, and welcome to another APA tutorial. In this series of videos, I am going to go ahead and use numbers. That's right, we're talking numbers today. This is the iWork suite spreadsheet program. And so in this video, we're going to talk about how to make a bar graph. In the next video, we're going to talk about how to make a line graph. And then in the following video, the third one of this series, we're going to talk scatter plots. So in this one, a bar graph. I'm going to use the same data that I've been using all throughout. You may have seen recent videos on Google Sheets, my old 5-year-old videos that I am planning on updating since they were done in Excel 2016. I am going to update those this summer in Excel. So we're going to have a Google Sheets, we're going to have a numbers, and we are going to have updated Excel. I may have a LibreOffice or an OpenOffice spreadsheet in there as well. But let's talk about numbers and making an APA style figure graph in that. And I'm going to use a 2x2 set of data that I've been using for a while. It's about a stereotype threat, gender by feedback design, a 2x2, right? So we've got gender, men and women, males, females, and then whether they got a math skills feedback set of instructions or a confidence building set of instructions. And we can make this bigger. I'm not as solid of a numbers person, but I can make graphs because for the most part, graphs in a spreadsheet program or charts or whatever you want to call them are pretty straightforward, and they tend to be similar in their functionality. And that's because they were all basically based on Excel. They were like, oh, okay, Excel did that. Microsoft did that for Excel. Let's go ahead and do the same thing. So just to set up what we have here, and if you've watched my previous videos on Excel or Google Sheets, you'll be familiar with this. We're going to make a bar chart in this video, and then again, we're going to make a line graph in the next one. Okay, so again, we've got men and women over here and their feedback condition in this one. And then this DV, these means, these cell means here are their scores out of 100 on a math test. Let's just say that. And then here are the standard errors plus or minus for each of these cell means. And I put them in a similar 2x2 graph because you kind of need this for Excel. And it seems like you need this for numbers, but I am not entirely sure. I did my testing. I made a graph. I put error bars like I do in Excel. And I'm going to show you how to do it in this one. And, you know, it is what it is. It's maybe not the best. Of course, Excel is the industry leader on this, but, you know, if you use numbers because you don't have an MS Office account, you don't have, you know, that Office 365, you don't have any of that with your school, with your work or whatever, and you don't want to pay a personal subscription for it, I totally understand that. But you have a Mac and you have the iWork suite, might as well use it, right? Maybe you're comfortable with it. Maybe you like numbers. I don't know. But in any case, let's go ahead and make a bar graph. Okay, so what I'm going to do, and this is different than Excel or Sheets, doesn't work the same. And the reason why it doesn't work the same as those two is because there's some finagling that you got to do with data labels and things like that. It's how numbers handles the information in the tables in your plots. And as you can see that I've kind of made this as small so I can work with the plot over here. Actually, we can drag that in so I'll have a nice big plot to work over in this big white space here. So I'm not going to select all of it. That was my first mistake. It's not like it's not doable if you select all of it. It becomes a little unwieldy if you do. So I'm just going to select my data, and I'm going to go up to chart right here, and I am going to choose one of the many charts that exist, right? Go through color palettes. I'm just going to choose the regular color palette, which is a blue and green because I have basically two and two. So it's going to be blue and green, but you can do blue and another shade of blue. You can do green and another shade of green. You can do orange and through reds. Okay. And you can do purples and pinks and things like that, or you can do grayscale. You can always change these colors. It's totally fine. But those are all of your 2D models. You can do 3D and you can do interactive. We're not doing any of these. So we're going to do 2D bar chart. And I'm going to bring this and I'm going to bring it over here. And you can see that there aren't no labels on anything, no labels on a damn thing. And that's because we got to go through all of these and add them because I only selected the data. And you can see here, blue is represented for math skills and green is represented for confidence building. I do like that. It's reminiscent of how Excel changes the colors depending on what you're talking about, right? Okay, so here you can change the chart style. Again, there are additional styles that you can download, I think, from Apple if you want to. You can add a title, you can add a border, you can add any hidden data there is, you can add a caption, and then you can add a legend. Of course, we're going to have the legend, and we're going to go through the chart options, then the axis options, then the series options, and then we'll go through the legend options as well. A range isn't really all that useful for us, so we're probably going to skip that. I'll show what a range does at the end. We can also change our chart colors. So here are our color palettes, right? I wouldn't choose anything that it would be, you know, not great for color blindness palettes. And of course, as you can see, there's a lot of greens and reds in here. That's not great. But a lot of these color palettes are part of what is the style. This is a color palette that I've used in the past, and what it's doing is it is transparent. That's what these two things are, because as you can see here, they're no longer transparent. Grayscale never do you any wrong. We'll just keep the bright hues for our colors. I am going to change the overall chart font to Arial, just to make sure everything is Arial. Of course, Helvetica Neu, or new Helvetica, basically, is the default. And we can change this to regular, and then we can increase our font size. this doesn't tell you how big it's getting though, unfortunately. And so we're just gonna have to play it by various aspects. So when we get the labels up here for the legend, when we modify the x-axis, when we add the labels for the y-axis, we'll go ahead and make sure everything is at least 14-point font. Other things that you can do with just the chart itself as selected, you can round the corners and that. So if you do rounded corners, it will round all the corners. Or you can just do round basically the outside, which are the top corners, and you can round those. We're just going to leave them as bars. You can increase or decrease the gaps between columns, and it goes by 10% each up and down arrow that you click. So I'm going to go ahead and reduce the space between my two pairs. This is going to be gender, of course. These are the men, these are the women. And then I can increase my distance between these two because I am not changing the size of the actual graph. What it does is it reduces the size of the bars themselves to create more space in the middle. At 60%, that's fine. And then you can change the background and border style. So no background fill, color fill, image fill, all of that stuff. No background fill is probably going to do you. And then choose a line for the chart border. Because there's no background fill, we're just going to do none. And what happens is that gets rid of all of my X lines. So I don't want that, right? Oh, let's go back to chart. Okay. And instead of none, we'll do line, and that'll at least give me my X-axis back. Don't worry, it'll all be there eventually. It really is, it's kind of funny because it's only the border for the bottom, because you can see that it's a line and then I have it black and it's 1 point thick. So I don't know, there you go. You can also add a shadow, right, to individual series. Don't do this. You can also add it to the group. Also, don't do this. It's 2D on a 3-dimension, and then you can change your chart type up here, right? So we've got our 2Ds, we've got our 3Ds, and we've got our interactive. We don't need that. All right, so let's go ahead and start modifying these axes, okay? So when we go into axis, you can choose either your y-axis over here or your x-axis to start with. Because it was on category X, I think because the last time I was fooling with it, I did X last. We'll go ahead and do that. Okay, by default, the axis line is there. Okay, and then we want the axis name, and we also want the series name, which we're gonna have to indicate here in just a second. So label references, before I go into anything else. Label references are for the series names, okay? Label references. So, and then it's gonna auto fit them because that's how I have it set. Or we can custom do all that, or we can do last category. I would just leave it as auto fit and then just indicate which cells are which. So we're gonna just drag this over, or you can identify that as B4. And then we're gonna drag that over, or you can identify that as B5. And then we're gonna click this, accept the changes and close. And there it did. It added male and female to the line. Now you can see here that I have category axis listed here. In order to change this, I have to double click on it to bring it up as a font change, right? So then I'm gonna put gender in here. And of course we bring up the font here. It already knows it is Arial. And when I increase the text size, it only made it to 12 point. We're gonna increase this to, or sorry, we'll just make that 14 point. Then we can make it regular, we can make it bold, we can do a line, which is nice. You can actually just click left, right, center. We can add shadow if we want to. Of course, we're not gonna do that. Okay, so then we're gonna go back to the chart, and then we're gonna specifically go and click on these bad boys here, right? And so we've got male and female in the right place. What I wanna do is I wanna make sure that these are 14 point as well, okay? It does, oop, I can also rewrite these if I want to. I'm not going to, but yeah, you have individual control over all of that, right? So gotta like double click in the right place. There we go. Cheapers. So we've got label angle, horizontal, but then we can change it right diagonal if we wanted to, left diagonal, all of that. Let's just do horizontal right in the middle, right, versus left and right. The only thing I can't do, again, come on, is I can't change the size of this. So if you know how to change the size of this actual box, please let me know, because as soon as I click on it and click away, it like doesn't let me do that. But that's the axis labels. It puts it in there. I can add a shadow to it. Don't do that. Don't do that. Back to the chart itself. Okay, we go back to axis. Okay, so we've got our label references there. We've got our horizontal label angle. Again, it brings us back to that. We can add in a grid line if we wanted to. It'll just put the grid lines on the side. Don't do that. That's not APA. And then tick marks. We don't need tick marks for our nominal x-axis variable. Okay, so there you have it. X-axis is done. Let's go to the y-axis now. Okay. So we do want an axis name, and it'll put it there. We do want the axis line just to show up as black and solid, right? Because we're eventually going to get rid of these grid lines here, down here. Before I move on, though, I want to go ahead and double click on this to bring up the font changing. So you double click on the word so you can write math test score out of 100. And I'm going to change the scale on the x-axis here. And then, of course, we are going to make sure that this is 14 point, right? Boom, right? So it's nice and big. So you have these like editing things, and if somebody could tell me how that works, that'd be great. So back to the axis options here. So we have axis scale is linear. Now it's going from 0 to 80 because the highest number is 76.25. But of course, I said it's out of 100, so I want to make sure I put 100 in there. But if I only do this, it's going to, or I have to hit enter here. It's going to give me from 60 to 100. I don't want that because I need to now specify that 0 is the actual minimum, right? You can get a 0 on it. And over here, you can change how many steps, not what the step values are, but how many steps, right? So 4 would divide this by 100. 100 divided by 4 every 25. 100 divided by 5 would be this. 6, though, you end up getting these weird values here, right? 7 more weird values, and then it doesn't make sense until you get to 10, right? So you're specifying the step rather than the units in between each line, right? So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to leave it as 10 steps between 0 and 100, okay? And we want to show minimum value because if we uncheck that, I mean, it's obvious that it's 0, but of course we want to show the minimum value there, okay? Same as source data for value labels. If you wanted to put the value labels in the boxes here or on the bars themselves, it will grab them from the data set, right? Source data. Label angle, horizontal, but you can also change the way that it works there, right? So if I did right diagonal, it would make these diagonal. Don't do that. All right. Value label, we'll close that. Let's go to reference lines. Do we want any reference lines? No, we don't. And they're a pain in the ass to remove too. You actually have to get the line and hit delete. Don't do that. Major grid lines. We got to get rid of these major grid lines. None. They're there. That's it. No more major grid lines. Minor grid lines? Absolutely not. The last thing I want, though, are tick marks, right? You get inside, centered, and outside. Outside, for me, works the best. It just makes sense that is the case. So there we go. That is the y-axis all done. Look at that. We're going to double click on this just to make sure that these are 14. Oh my goodness. Can you? There we go. 14. There we go. 14-point font. Okay, we are almost done, folks. Not quite, though, because we need to do 2 more things. We need to get this actual legend filled in, and then we need to add error bars. So let's go ahead and do legend first because it's the easiest, right? So we're going to click on the legend. We're going to double click on it. Where was that again? Okay, so to be able to put in our data labels here for the legend, we need to click on the graph and go down here to where it says edit data references. So we're going to click on that, and it's going to change our table up here. Okay. It's really annoying. It really is. But you can add more data if you wanted to. Select cells to add data to this chart in case you needed to. But in all honesty, this is where things, the legend and the error bars are a little weird. Okay, so just keep that in mind. All right, so what we're going to do is we have these little circles here, blue and green circles, and we have a drop-down menu. Okay, what we need to do is, oops, I don't want that. We need to make sure that math skills is represented as my blue bars, right? So we go over to here, because now that I've clicked on it, it opened up the series and the name. Unfortunately, the name is C1, which is like up here or something like that. One of these 2 empty cells. So of course, there's no label for it. So we're going to go ahead and change that. I'm going to delete that, and then I'm going to go over here and click on math skills. Okay. And then I'm going to hit check mark there, and there we go. We've got math skills. Perfect. Then I'm going to click on this one, so I get the green bars selected. We can also double click on the bars. That's what I did the last time I was messing around with this. I double clicked on the bars. That gives me this. So of course, it's putting D1. So the values are correct. D1 here is not the right label, right? It's an empty cell. D1, as you can see, it's literally right there. So it's going to let me choose which cell I want, and then I'm going to click close, and there we go. And of course, we've got order 1 and 2. We can change those if we want to. Perfect. Okay. Now we're in the right place for doing error bars. Because my green confidence building is selected, I'm going to go ahead and do error bars for them. Okay, so I'm going to go to error bars here, and you can see that it says none. Okay, we've got positive and negative, positive only and negative only. Positive and negative are both sides, so it's going to be up above the bar and down below this point on the bar. Positive would be only up above, and negative would be only down into the bar itself. Of course, I like doing positive and negative, so let's go ahead and do positive and negative. By default, it will bring up fixed value and 10. I guess this is a spreadsheet thing because they always do this. But the thing that sets numbers apart from even Google Sheets, if you're on a Mac, of course, this using numbers is only for people who are Mac users, right? You can specify custom values, right? And so you need to specify here what the positive and value numbers are. My hope is that when you do this, the way that you do it in Excel is actually working in that way. So if you go to my Excel video, when you have a series, so 2 different numbers, so 3.43 positive plus and minus, or sorry, we're over here. 3.67 plus or minus should be for this bar, and 3.43 should be for this bar. My hope is that that is what is happening. It's hard to tell though, because in Excel, you can actually see a difference. For this, you can't really. And the one way that I'm going to check it now, so I'm going to go ahead and close that, is I'm going to make these massive. I'm going to make these, actually, let's undo that. Let's uncheck this. I'm going to make these significantly different from one another, just for the purposes of showing what is potentially going on and double checking my work here. Let's do 2 and let's do 8 over here. Okay, so let's go back to these error bars, shall we? So we've got error bars down here. You double click on the bars of the graph themselves. So we've got 2 and 8, 8 and 2, right? So this should be 8 and this should be small at 2. Let's see what happens when we put our negative. So we delete the 10 here, and I want to go ahead and just drag those, and we're going to hit that. It's working. Yes. So we're going to delete the 10, and we're just going to cycle those through again, right? Pull those cells. This is exactly the way that it works in Excel, and it works. We have two separate error bars for our two separate means. Perfect. You can change the look of the error bar by default. It is the double flat caps, but you can also do triangle caps or no caps, right? No cap fam. It also brings up the error bar information up here too. So you can do it all at once if you double click on the error bar. You have to have error bars there to double click and get the error bar menu here. So let's double click on this one. Our blue bars for math skills, right? So we're gonna get 2 and 8 over here. So the small error bar over here and a big error bar over here, right? Of course, these are not the correct values from my data set, but that's okay. We're gonna do positive and negative. We're gonna do custom values, and we are going to delete 10, and we're gonna highlight these 2 cells to put them in there. You can hit enter as well as hitting this green check mark. And then I'm gonna put that in there and then highlight those 2 again. And voila, we have the same exact thing that we needed to have custom error bars, right? So that's why we put these standard errors in the same way, so it goes in order. 70.13 has a standard error of 2, plus or minus. 61.86 has a standard error of 8, plus or minus. And then we reverse it for these when we do that. And again, if you double click on the error bars themselves, it'll bring up your ability to change the bar style and the bar color. Black. Always go with black. I don't know why Google Sheets decides to make it the same color. Just let me make them black, please. So click off there, and wouldn't you know it, we've got an APA style bar graph here, or column graph technically. Oh, actually, the thing that I want to get rid of here, that's why math skills and confidence building, I don't want those, and I can't remember how to do that. Value labels, no, undo that. Oh, series names, that's what it was. We don't want the series names. I was wondering why that was so. That's why, and then that's how you get that close to the bar there. And that is how you make an APA style column or bar chart in Numbers. Stay tuned for the next one where we do the same exact thing for a line graph. Stay tuned for that one. If you have any comments, suggestions, other feedback, or most importantly, questions, please leave those in the comments section down below. Thank you so much for watching this video. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.